At first glance, it is obvious how unpleasant it looks when a proud or pompous person constantly gives unsolicited advice, interferes in other people's lives, and behaves as if they were appointed manager of everyone else's destiny. Such behavior is not care. It is vanity in motion. It is shameful, intrusive, and deeply unpleasant, because almost everyone immediately senses the truth behind it. The goal is not really to help. The goal is to feed oneself. A person of this type wants to feel superior. They want to justify their own importance, flatter their ego, and collect yet another inner story about what a wise, useful, morally elevated benefactor they are. They do not enter another person's life to listen. They enter it to perform. That is the most obvious version, but the more interesting and more dangerous form is subtler. Because people driven by this impulse do not always look arrogant on the surface. Some of them hide behind the language of care, sacrifice, kindness, humility, and concern. They present themselves as helpers, rescuers, or compassionate guides. Outwardly, the packaging is better, softer, more socially acceptable. Inwardly, the engine is often the same. And that is the real problem. The wrapping changes. The motive does not. What is the difference, for example, between a rich man who gives alms and then tells everyone about it, and a beggar who points at people and shouts that they gave too little, that they are selfish, cold, and unkind? On the surface, they look different. One has status, money, and the role of benefactor. The other has nothing and demands sympathy. But psychologically, the structure can be identical. In both cases, the self stands at the center. In both cases, the action is used to inflate personal importance. In both cases, the supposed other person becomes merely material for ego. This applies not only to money, it applies to relationships, opinions, advice, moral judgments, and ordinary conversation. How often do we listen to another person and inwardly think, what nonsense are they saying? What rubbish? I know better. Even if we do not say it aloud, the internal movement has already begun. We stop listening. We stop trying to understand. We begin waiting for our turn to correct, interrupt, explain, or dominate. Outwardly, it may still look like a conversation. Inwardly, it has already become hierarchy. That is the quiet poison inside so much help. I know better no longer means sincerity, support, or solidarity. It means that another person has become an opportunity for self-confirmation. Their confusion becomes my stage. Their weakness becomes my chance to feel stronger. Their pain becomes my mirror for my own imagined wisdom. This is why so much advice feels heavy, even when it sounds polite. People are sensitive to intention. A human being can often feel when they are genuinely being accompanied and when they are simply being managed. Real support carries respect. It leaves room. It listens before speaking. It does not rush to place itself above the other person. Ego-driven help, by contrast, is impatient. It wants to intervene quickly. It wants to be seen. It wants to leave fingerprints everywhere. And in that sense, it can become corrupting for both sides. It corrupts the one who gives because it strengthens pride. A person begins to need situations in which they can feel wiser, more generous, more emotionally mature, more evolved than others. They become attached not to truth, but to the experience of superiority. It also corrupts the one who receives. Advice given from ego often weakens rather than strengthens. It may create dependence, shame, passivity, resentment, or silent humiliation. A person is not truly helped when they are treated as a prop in someone else's moral performance. That is why not all help is good, and not all good intentions are clean. The old phrase about the road to hell being paved with good intentions remains relevant precisely because intentions are so easy to romanticize. A person may sincerely believe they are acting for another's good, while in reality serving vanity, impatience, or the desire to control. The fact that one feels concerned does not automatically make the action pure. This is why restraint matters. Sometimes the most ethical thing is not to advise. Sometimes it is to ask. Sometimes it is to listen. Sometimes it is to remain silent long enough for the other person to hear themselves. Sometimes it is to help only when help is invited, and sometimes it is to examine your own motive before opening your mouth. Why do I want to say this? Is it truly for them, or is it for me? That question cuts deeper than people like. Because the line between care and pride is much thinner than it looks.